Hello, welcome to the Maidstone Grammar School website, and thank you very much for clicking on this link to understand more about our admissions arrangements. My name is Mark Tompkins, I am the headmaster, and over the next few minutes I hope to be able to explain to you what our admissions criteria mean for you and your son. To accompany this short video, there is a document available called Maidstone Grammar School Admissions Arrangements, which clearly explains our 4-staged admissions criteria. To achieve a place at Maidstone Grammar School, boys first of all need to pass the Kent test and be deemed to be grammar assessed. That is, to achieve the minimum pass mark and the minimum in each of the 3 tests. We admit 205 boys each year, so if more than 205 boys achieve the pass mark, then we apply our oversubscription criteria, and it is this that is broken down into 4 stages. The accompanying document lists these stages in full, but simply put they are: Criterion 1, boys who are looked after and previously looked after. Criterion 2, boys achieving a Kent test score of 360 and who live in one of our listed parishes. Criterion 3, boys achieving the minimum Kent test score, which is normally 320, and who live in one of our listed parishes. And Criterion 4, boys achieving the minimum Kent test score, again normally 320, and who live outside of one of our listed parishes. Now, the main reason for this short video is to explain in more detail the second criterion, Criterion 2, boys achieving a Kent test score of 360. But before I talk about what this means for you and your son, I wish to explain some history and context. We introduced to our admissions criteria this second criterion, a test score of 360, about 15 years ago. We made the very conscious decision that we did not want to become a super selective school, as we felt it very important indeed to retain the family links we are proud of, and the schools that select on score only cannot do this. We have always offered the opportunity of an MGS education to boys living in all of the Maidstone boroughs, in addition to the eastern and northern parts of Tunbridge and Malling. These are the historic parishes that we have served over the last 470 years and are the most important element of our admissions criteria. At the time we introduced this second criterion, we found ourselves in the position where we were being more and more limited to distance. The town of Maidstone was growing in population, and therefore we found we were not offering places to these traditional areas and feeder primary schools. This second criterion was therefore introduced to allow boys in the more distant villages at least a fighting chance of gaining a place at their nearest grammar school. If this criterion did not exist, then boys would be admitted to Maidstone Grammar School based on distance alone, and so we would not reach out to those more distant places. The analysis over the years since we introduced this criterion shows that we have been successful in this, as our catchment continues to include boys from these historic parishes, even though the town of Maidstone continues to grow. So, giving you an example of how it all works and how we implement this second criterion. Any boy who achieves the minimum score required is deemed to be grammar assessed, usually 320, and who achieves the minimum required in each of the 3 tests, and who lives in one of the listed parishes is eligible for a place. Undoubtedly, there'll be more boys than places, so at that point we apply our oversubscription criteria. The first criterion of that oversubscription criteria is qualifying boys who are looked after, who are previously looked after, followed by this second criterion, any boy who achieves a score of 360, and this is then broken down in the order of boys in receipt of free school meals, followed by boys with a sibling already at the school, and finally by boys living closest to the school. The other remaining places, usually around half of the entire year group, are then allocated to those boys who achieve the minimum required score, usually 320, and again in the order of boys in receipt of free school meals, followed by boys with a sibling already at the school, followed by boys closest to the school. Each year, the distance the furthest boy lives away from school varies. Some years it has been a distance of about 2 miles, others to a much further distance like 12 miles. It all depends on how many people apply, who applies, and where they live. Now, based on everything I've just said, the first misconception to note is that this score of 360 is required to gain entry into this school. This is not true at all. Entry to MGS has always been based on the Kent test, and the score required is the minimum score to be deemed grammar assessed, which, as I say, is normally 320. This score of 360 has never been the score you need to gain a place at MGS. The second misconception is that students who don't score the score of 360 will struggle at MGS in a peer group of those who did. This is also totally untrue. All students who are successful at gaining a place at MGS thrive, are encouraged, and end up being fine young men. Irrespective of how a boy gains a place at MGS and whatever score they achieve, once allocated to us, he is a Maidstonian. We nurture, guide, support and encourage all of our students to achieve their best, no matter what they achieved in the Kent test. I hope that this information reassures you and helps you to understand the nuances of our admission arrangements. But if you do have any questions about admissions, please do contact the school. Thank you very much.